Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Kubernetes 135 release retrospective part two. My name is Drew Hagan, and I will be the facilitator for this retro. Please be aware that this meeting falls under the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, which can be summarized as please be excellent to one another. Thank you. Um, if you could please add yourself to the attendees list, that would be great. And it looks like I'm actually signed in to my personal account. Okay, here we go. So, yeah, so we will be diving into what went well, what could have gone better, and what we will do differently in 135. So thanks for everybody who submitted some feedback for us. This will be really helpful in improving future cycles. Um, One thing I wanted to mention as well is that as we're having our discussion today and building up action items, I created a new GitHub board. We don't necessarily have to use this right away in this meeting, but going forward, I think it would be good for tracking all of the items that we create. So I started a tab here for 135, and after the retrospective we have today, any action items that we add, I will make sure that they are added to the board. So just for simplicity, we could continue to add the action items here, and then I'll go ahead and add these to the board. I just made this yesterday, so the process is not super solid yet, but we'll get there. So, is there anything I'm forgetting about, Kat, in terms of kicking off this meeting?
No, I think you've got it. The second part two usually goes pretty quickly. Like usually, not a ton gets added. So,
Okay.
yeah, each of these sections should have a part two. So, what could have gone better in 135? There should be a part two section there.
Okay.
Nothing, and what we'll do differently. So, yeah, this should go relatively quickly.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to add anything to the what could have gone better or what went well in 135, it looks like we don't have anything for that right now. Um, but if you would like to add something, please feel free. I think what we'll do is we'll start with what to do differently in 135 because it looks like we have a lot of feedback there. So thanks for everybody who added items. And we copied some of this, right? From the first one that we didn't get to. Is that correct?
Usually we just drop the retro part two starts here in where we stop.
Got it.
So
Okay.
yeah, so that is in fact where we should be kicking off.
All right. And then lastly, do we have someone who's willing to volunteer to be a scribe for this retro?
I could do it.
All right. Thanks so much. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started then. Starting with Depeche. Is Depeche here?
Yes, I think first one, I think we briefly discussed just as we were ending the part one. So it was regarding the use of moving away from bit.ly short links and using the one which Viome has set up using our internal rel.kh.io. So I'm not sure whether we have decided that we'll go with those short links in the next release or we'll give it more time.
Yeah, so I had tried to set this up. It looks like there's some things that we need to configure in the SIG release repo for it to
Hmm.
pull the data accordingly. Um,
Right.
this was kind of later in the release cycle, and I think there were other things that were pulling my attention, so it kind of fell to the wayside. But
Hmm.
I think it would be good to connect with Yum, or also just kind of gather an understanding, make sure that it's like written in our handbook uh, how we create these new links with the redirect.
Hmm.
So I think that's what we'll have to sort out, and I think we have a good opportunity within this week or two between the cycles to um, make sure that's squared away. Another thing I wanted to bring up with this is that something that's been really helpful for me as a release lead is being able to look back at some of the bit.ly links that we've had. So as we start to cut over to the Kubernetes redirect, I think it would be nice to create a markdown document with the old bit.ly links just as a reference point. Does that make sense?
Yep, but that would be for N-3 release or all the past releases.
We could do maybe the last three releases.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mohammed.
Hi there. Is the project willing to pay for Bitly and keep it as it is?
Nope. I mean, you know how this goes about as well as I do, which is we have to ask the CNCF for that money. Like SIG release does not have the capability to do this or make that call. Um,
Okay, let me phrase it differently. Is it worth asking for that service or not?
um, I have to switch hats for a moment. Come to the public steering committee meeting and ask me that there. Um, because I would like to not have to do all of this juggling, but ultimately it requires us asking the CNCF for money, which they don't like giving us. So,
But it does.
um,
I'm well aware.
yeah,
As someone who asks for stuff too from there.
yeah,
But yeah, yes,
yeah,
that's the piece that was missing from the conversation. Yeah, everybody says they moved, but nobody says. I didn't see anything that said, "Oh, it wasn't worth asking because A, it costs too much," or "We don't derive any value from it," or none of that conversation was there. Even indicates the IO ticket.
I think I
yeah.
saw.
I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, I don't know if it was previous retros or like I don't know some obscure issue comment somewhere, but I did see conversation. I'm trying to remember even the gist of it. I think it was like we also had some issues with, or I thought the CNCF took some issues with Bitly, like the way um yeah, I don't remember exactly. It was like against our terms of service or something, right?
I don't remember. There was something.
Yeah.
That's how I recall as well. I think it was the kind of policy change that wasn't compliant with how Kubernetes code of conduct works or something like that.
Yeah.
That was my understanding at least.
But yeah, no, I definitely think it would be worth discussing if we just continue. So, um,
Sounds good. I'll follow up on 8109 and see where that goes.
okay. Yeah, so could maybe have an action item to carry this conversation forward with the steering committee. Um, any other discussion we want to have related to Bitly?
I'll
Can we
probably
at the
double check
next
with,
release? Yeah, go ahead, Ryota.
sorry, yeah, I'll probably double check with what the current setup with Vion because I do
Hmm.
think that 134 had this, excuse me, had this without Bitly working to some extent. So yeah, I'll double check what the current status is, if we can make use of it in the 136, and yeah, we'll see from there.
Okay. Um, did you want to do action items as well, Ryota? I don't know.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sometimes I feel like scribing the actual discussion versus the action items is like two different roles, but yeah, thanks for doing that. So moving on, another item from Depeche.
Yeah, so this one is regarding the responsibility of the enhancement lead. So just for context for everyone, so when the release starts, the enhancement lead has to go through all the caps that are already present in the repo and remove this lead opted in label. Why? Because these SIG leads have to explicitly add this label and add the current milestone to the cap so that it'll appear on the board. So what we are recently seeing is a lot of caps are being opted in the release, which is good. For example, in the last release, there was initially one or two opted in caps. But that would mean at the end of that release, the next enhancement lead has to go through those all caps and remove that label manually, and it can be a little bit of tedious to get it working in first 2 weeks of the release to get that board set up and so that everyone can see what the caps are being opted in. So the thought process was during the release, during the later half of the release, maybe the enhancement team, which is lesser on the workload, can go and start removing these labels because I think those labels have served their purpose once we have tracked and all the code is merged and docs PRs are merged. I think we did a trial of this activity, this release, where we only targeted the removal of this label from deferred and removed caps. So we had initially 90 cap issues that were having these labels. So we brought it down to 60, but there 60 is still a high number for the next enhancement lead to go through all those 60 issues and comment and remove those labels.
Yeah, that sounds really good to me, especially considering the workload is pretty light after the code freeze. So, would the action item here be to add some guidance to the enhancements handbook
Yeah.
for these cleanup tasks?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Is that an action item you're willing to take?
I am, but maybe can we need CAT's approval of introducing some new process? I'm not sure.
Oh, technically you do, but yeah, no, I
Yeah.
think this is a
Okay.
fantastic idea. The enhancement subteam doesn't have anything to do after code freeze, really, and there is like post-release cleanup responsibility on other teams. The docs
Mhm.
subteam has post-release cleanup responsibilities. So I think it's entirely reasonable to have enhancements do this. Please ship it.
Yep, I can take an action item to add this information in the handbook.
Great suggestion, by the way.
And then for this release, I sort of delegated this out. Is this have we started the cleanup process?
No, that wouldn't
We'll
really
start, I
happen,
think,
and that wouldn't really
next
happen
week,
until
I
the
think.
first week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So it's like right after. Okay, so right after the release, we then go through and clean up the lead opt-in
Mhm.
label. Okay, cool.
I think Ryan went through a bunch and cleaned up like the deferred and removed ones already.
Okay, awesome. Any other thoughts about removing the lead opt-in label and other enhancement team cleanup tasks? Okay. Moving on, we have an item from Raji. I don't know if you're still here. I noticed you posted. Oh yeah, it looks like she had to drop. So um, I'll go ahead and read what she posted. Um, so for release signal team with a large number of tabs under the SIG release master blocking and master informing dashboards, some flakes or failures could easily go unnoticed by release signal. In addition to the weekly coordinator role, how about assigning each member a fixed number of jobs for the entire cycle? The tabs could be evenly distributed, and each member would be responsible for monitoring and reporting issues for their assigned jobs. This would create clear ownership and reduce misses. So I'm trying to put on my release signal hat here. Um, I feel as though, I mean, so like a lot of the tabs, we get like a clear, we get a clear signal on whether or not it's flaky or failing, right? So like even, actually, I have to keep myself honest here. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that dashboard up because it's been a minute. Is there anybody else in release signal here that might want to chime in?
I mean, I'm of the opinion that the incoming release signal lead is free to try this.
Yeah,
Like it's up to the sub team leads to divide up work however they please. We don't necessarily police that.
yeah, yeah,
So if the incoming lead wants to try that, like they're welcome to.
yeah, for sure. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, but I guess yeah. So just my 2 cents. I think each of these tabs, we if you go to the main board, it will say if it's flaky or if it's green, or and also like if it's failing. So I would be sort of curious the value of assigning everybody one of these tabs when usually the main coordinator will try to rely on these signals to kind of dig in and focus on anything that's not green. So that's my only thought about that is I wonder if the dividing and conquer is necessary for that or not. Um, I wish Raji were here to talk more about that idea, but hopefully this could continue to be discussed by the next release signal lead. Um, and to that end, is there any action item we wanted to make from this? Maybe kind of just start an async conversation with release signal. Um, for
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just a thing that the incoming lead keeps in mind. The incoming lead is not on this call, right? No, yeah, right?
I'm here, Kat.
Hey, so that keep this in as a thought when you divvy up work for this incoming cycle. If you want to do this, great. But you do not have to.
Hey, yes, understood, Kat. Yeah. We'll try to
Cool.
figure out the best approach here.
All right, cool. So moving on to our next item, another one from Depeche.
Yeah, so this one I'm not sure. So I think last year, I think all the releases, I think initial part had complaints from various members of the community that there are various broken links either in the website or in the mail communication that the release lead sends during the start of the release. The
Mhm.
root cause is basically the schedule of the release is not merged and the links are already present in the template. And when folks click on those links, there are 404 links. So the thought process was maybe as a placeholder on the first week of the release, we just create an empty directory for the next release and just leave it there so the at least the link is not broken and it works. And or maybe we change the templates of the mail that we send in our communication, but at least address those broken links.
So the directory is there when the email goes out. It's that the schedule hasn't been merged yet. Let me go look at the Slack thread and see who was complaining because ah, don't let me find a way to put this. Um, some community members in particular um do not pay great attention to the release team and how things have literally always operated, and have had to apologize for messages like that causing problems for the release team. So that specific Slack thread in particular, I would not recommend overhauling the way we function for him,
Okay.
because an apology was issued over stuff like that
Okay.
from that specific person, unfortunately.
Mhm.
So we can certainly pivot towards like calling out in that email that like the schedule hasn't been finalized yet, so it hasn't been merged yet.
Mhm.
Um, and call out like it typically is not merged until like X weeks into the release. Here's how much longer you have to like fight about where things go in the schedule. But I don't know. I wouldn't do too much tiptoeing around because of that Slack thread.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, so if we want to do anything differently for 136, I think this would be potentially an action item for your awareness, Ryota. So yeah,
Yep,
I th-
good to know.
yeah, because it's the release lead's duty to send the sneak peek email. So yeah. Any other thoughts about the schedule reference in the emails? Okay, moving on, we have an item from Jenny.
Yeah. So I feel like pretty much every cycle we have at least one or two caps where we're not sure whether they should be tracked or not by like enhancements team. Um, I know Kat sent out some guidance a while back, like saying what needs to be tracked, like if it's user facing. But still, I think this cycle I remember there was like a kept that was like it changed like the logging output or something, and we weren't. I mean, that is user facing, but I think maybe it would be good to kind of document, be more explicit with examples, like what is a user facing change that needs to be tracked versus not tracked. And there's also some cases where there's like a KEP is not making updates except for docs or maybe comms. And in that case, I think it still needs to be on our board. Maybe we can give examples of what to do in those cases as well. And I'm not sure what the best place to document this is, handbook or one of the readmes.
So the docs handbook has information for docs only PRs that we track. And the answer is that they just get dumped in the bottom of the board. And I think in a previous release, I don't know if we did it for 135, but for a previous one, we did have a tag in the enhancements tracking board that allowed you to filter out the docs only ones, because really only the docs teams cares about those. For the logging thing, yes, we need to specify what we mean when we say user facing. User facing means a user can interact with it. We don't have to track KEPs or PRs that only make changes to logging output. That's always been just kind of like shipped whenever untracked, because it's the user can see it, but the user can't interact with it. Um, when we say user facing, we mean a user can interact with it. So that should be clarified for sure, because you are right, that is confusing.
Do you think we should, is there a good place to document this where we could just point people to if there's like questions in the future of whether something should be tracked or not?
Yeah, I don't think it's in either of our handbooks, though. Let me do some digging around. It might need to be, this might need to get owned by SIG architecture. It might go into their docs. Um,
And then if they if they own it, that's something we can refer to on both the enhancements and docs subteams.
Yeah, so I think it probably goes in the enhancements repo, which is, I believe, owned by SIG Arch. Yeah, it's owned by SIG Architecture because it's the enhancement subproject. So I think it goes in here. Oop. Mm, Seeing, yeah, so it's unlikely an enhancement if it is adding error messages or events. So yeah, like that's not an enhancement. So we should add like logging output to that, I think. Yeah, so like this doc needs a little bit of updating. You can assign that action item to me if you want.
Yeah. Cool. This is kind of slightly related. I know it was in 133, Nina and Viam had an item to look into automation to check user-facing code changes merging in. I think that's slightly different, but kind of related. So I thought I would just mention that that's out there. So, are there any other thoughts on more details on the user-facing change? Okay, moving on. So I think this was a discussion that we had about um, maybe adding an official process to gather feedback from SIGs in regards to how our exception requests go. Just sort of, if possible, like steering a good faith conversation about like async retro-ish of like how if there was anything to learn about like reducing the requests in the future. I don't know if we feel that would add value, but I I think we just had like a lot of exception requests in the last cycle. So I think there's just a curiosity if there was something that we could do in SIG, on the release team to make it a little easier and whatnot.
Well, let's let's go look at something. Let me go look at the last winter release, right? And we'll see if that had also more.
Only two, it looks like, at least.
That is so surprising.
Yeah, so what was it before that 129?
Yeah.
So this one I think was particularly condensed. Okay, yeah, no, this one, the 129 has a lot. So
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back one more and see if this is a consistent thing, a relatively consistent thing.
yeah, 126 had a lot too.
Yeah, okay. So it looks like the last winter release before yours was an outlier.
Okay,
And this is just the way it is.
sure.
Um,
Did you have any other thoughts, Ryota? I know, in terms of, the value that gathering feedback could provide.
I guess one benefit of having such a kind of retro-related, retro-like communication before the next release starts, I guess it's just to make sure that they know whom to talk to. In this case, it would be me that, if they have any questions or concerns, they can speak up earlier, perhaps, knowing me or knowing who is around. but I don't know how much benefit or how much that actually adds to the enhancements or exception setting. But I guess just kind of gathering the feedback in general might be nice, but yeah, not much more than that, I guess.
I think something this is kind of reminding me of when I was going through the action items is I think there were, I can't remember which cycle it was, but there was some discussion about creating metrics. Actually, maybe that was a retro item that was dropped. I think it was assigned to you, Kat, about some,
Yep,
some kind of
that
formal metrics. Yeah.
yeah, that was from several cycles ago, and it relied on us going back and pulling historical data to look at the number of exception requests from specific SIGs. This is when we were in the throes of dealing with like two SIGs being like a particularly high burden with respect to exception requests and missing docs deadlines. But ultimately, we did not go through with digging up that data because it was easier to just go to those two SIGs and help them put a triage rotation in place so that now it is less of a problem for them.
Right. Um,
Um, we can certainly have like either the release lead or the enhancements lead or both go to SIG's weekly meetings and just like talk to them, bring it up there. But there are
yeah.
what, 38 SIGs total? Um, Even if we bring it down to only the SIGs that have enhancements or only the SIGs that have like a significant number of enhancements, it's still a lot of work. I don't think we're unfortunately ever going to be able to get leadership from all SIGs who have enhancements within a release to come to a meeting. As they're
Yeah.
busy, but we can like do it in a more targeted way. So if a particular SIG seems to be having more exception requests or more trouble hitting deadlines compared to other SIGs, we can proactively go to that specific SIG's meeting and be like, hey, what's going on? We've done that before. So nothing wrong with doing that again and working with them. But getting everybody in a call is probably not going to happen. Maybe we could send out a survey,
Yeah.
but I don't think they'll respond mostly.
Right. Um, one thought I have too, just kind of looking at this exceptions.yaml, because I remember in a recent retro, Stephen had pointed out like maybe there's something we could process from this. I mean, just looking at it though, we don't even have a field for the owning SIG of the issue. I mean, it, could potentially be grabbed by the issue ID, but um and I'm not really sure what like changing the data object, like I don't know if exceptions.yaml is processed somewhere already and if that would break anything. Um, but if we did have a field here for SIG, um, we could just automatically process how many exceptions we have every cycle. I don't know. I'm thinking like an engineer again.
I mean, we can definitely get at it programmatically from having the issue ID.
Sure.
That's probably safer than adding another field because I also do not know if this is processed somewhere. And even if it's not processed somewhere by us, it might be being processed by somebody else who will come and complain if we break it. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, we can definitely get at the owning SIGs programmatically. There is sometimes more than one, so we'd have to account for that.
Mhm.
But um, maybe we can extend this page in the contributor site to have a release specific You, that would not be SIG Release's wheelhouse. Um, this would
Yeah.
be an ask for SIG docs, I think. Or Contribex, I think. It's one or the other.
For for processing exception.
For this, what Depeche put in the chat.
Oh, oh, I see.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty sure an ask for Contribex and docs. Who owns the dev site? Do I have ownership rights here? Mhm.
I think it's contrabacks, but
Yeah, I
yeah.
think so. So yeah, we need to talk to Contrabacks for that. Um,
Okay. I think a lot of good ideas came up on this one. So I feel like I'm hearing a handful of action items. Um, I for myself, I would like to look a little closer at the exceptions, not YAML, and look into programmatically based on that issue ID, seeing if we can pull those metrics. Um,
okay.
so if you want to assign that to me, Ryota, that'd be awesome. I don't know if there's other action items people want to take for this. I know we talked about a survey and some other ideas. Are there any other action items somebody wants to take? Any other thoughts before we move on to the next retro item?
I I didn't add any action item for the contribX. Is that okay? Do we want to follow up with them or?
Um, let's let Drew see if he can get at that information programmatically and pull metrics at all. Um, and then we can talk to Contribex after that.
Okay.
Okay. So moving to Cyan. I hope I pronounced that right. For the docs handbook refresh.
Yeah, hi. So, I just wanted to put some perspective on what I felt coming f into the docs team as a shadow. So, so the handbook definitely felt it has all the information, but definitely felt a bit overwhelming. I had to read it through a bunch of times to understand each and every steps, and I was understanding it right. I also found that it references to the docs references, the handbook references to enhancement spreadsheet, but I think the tracking has now moved on to a GitHub board. A few of the handbook action items I did not see, was not done during the release. And I was asking Urvashi, like, are these things still out there? Like, are this thing getting done? Or something on those lines. And I think like probably we need to have a look on if the action item needs to be removed. The next point is kind of subjective, but I was also someone who works on scripts a lot. I was thinking the code snippets that we run, if we can move into runnable scripts. But again, like if someone wants to like having those as code snippets help folks to like read every line, run them every line one at a time. But then it's also a bit error prone because during the 135 release, we saw that a few of the steps people did make mistakes, so it's prone to human error. And another point that I felt that we have a how to directory, but we could include things like how to review release notes PR, or branching PRs, because at the end we did face some issues while creating the final release notes PR, and I think those could have been tackled if we had done the review a much better manner. So yeah, and so me and Urvashi during the Christmas break, we were drafting a bit, working on brainstorming, drafting. So I created a branch in my repository. So yeah. Yeah, since the next is mine, I'll continue on this one as well. So post doc freeze, I felt that a lot went on to doc's leads plate, and then we were mostly empty. The shadows were not doing anything, and it was mostly on doc's leads table. And if someone becomes doc's lead in the next cycle, they are doing those steps for the first time. So I felt that there is a lack of there is a kind of a technical debt, because they are doing it the first time, and they might not have context of what happened in the previous releases. So yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a lot going in here in one. So first of all, and most importantly, those two links you have in here to branches, please instead open a draft PR, because we can't tell what's been changed if we're just looking at your branch. We need to be able to see like the specific changes versus what was originally there. Um, all of these handbooks are quite large. So before we can look at any of the changes you're suggesting, please open a draft PR. We can't see it with just looking at your branch. It's a little bit too hard. Yes, unfortunately, the handbooks are big and overwhelming. They all are now. We are more than happy to help find ways to organize them better so that they are less overwhelming. A few of the action items on the handbook are outdated and need to be removed. Which ones specifically? Because the overwhelming majority of them are still performed as far as I know and are important. I will say that I performed some of the action items for the docs subteam this last cycle. So it's possible that you're looking at ones that I did, because there was like a momentary lapse in communication. So some of the steps that are handled by the docs subteam got done by me. So gotta know which ones you're talking about here specifically. Moving the code snippets into runnable scripts to prevent human error. Yes, that prevents human error, but it also increases workload in that it will require us to make sure that you have an environment set up that can run that script, rather than just making sure you have a terminal with Git installed. Are you talking about CREL commands, or are you talking about things like branch syncs, or are you talking about the end of cycle stuff that the release lead does? Because some of those are a little bit more automatable than others. CREL is kind of an ongoing problem that requires a lot more engineering resources than we have to fix, unfortunately, but it is in progress. Like, we're trying to improve CREL. So if you're talking about CREL, we're working on it. If you're talking about stuff like branch syncs, I don't think we're going to automate that. That's something that we just kind of like expect a shadow doing it for the first time to maybe screw up. I've screwed it up for sure. So not a big deal to screw that one up. It's not the end of the world. Um, what was the last one? Post docs freeze. Most of the action items seem to be on the docs lead. Yes, that is the first time they are handling them. No, we are never going to have shadows do that work. Shadows are welcome to watch it happen. The docs leads end of cycle work happens on a call with someone from SIG docs. This cycle, it was me, because it requires somebody who has access to Netlify and elevated access to the website. We are never going to give that elevated access to a shadow. it's just not going to happen. But there is no rule against shadows coming to watch. So if it is happening at a time that's convenient for the shadows, like they're welcome to jump on the Zoom call. That is up to the docs lead to organize, but we're absolutely never going to let shadows perform those end of cycle tasks.
Yeah, so to go on back like on the review, so I mostly agree on most of the things. The th first thing that I was actually planning, rather than opening the draft PL, I was actually planning on creating an issue so that I can list all the points in a much detailed manner and have a discussion there, and then link the draft PR so that you could actually see the diff which you talked of. The next one was few of the th items that you mentioned, which was I don't know which was done or not. So like contacting a few of the groups, like I guess the localization team, there was this message, and dropping message on few of the release sub teams. So those all items was done or not. So I think I think it's best to put in a issue and discuss it there, so it
Mm.
makes sense and check it off.
Things like
Um,
messaging the localization subteam when the websites get frozen should absolutely still be done. That's not something that should be removed.
okay,
If it wasn't done, that was an oversight, but
okay,
that 1000% should still be done because
okay.
they like the localization subteam does access the website, so they should be warned that it's frozen.
Okay. I think maybe Urvashi can talk more on this part because she also had a few points there. So the scripts are primarily, I think this is one of the low-hanging fruit, but things like updating the website, um, the website, hugo.toml, those things. But again, I just wanted to have the scripts, the Git commands in one script rather than like entering them manually. But again, as I told, this is a low-hanging fruit. This can be skipped but the focus is more on organizing the README in general so that it more makes sense that you can follow through the things in a more readable manner and have more bulleted points. I actually went through the other sub teams READMEs and documentation, and I definitely found inspirations from there. So yeah, and the last point I do agree on the docs lead thing. This exactly the thing that I had in mind, that the things that docs lead do after the docs freeze can actually be taken on call, which doc shadows, so that they can know what's happening, and they have an idea on what are the steps that are being done. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with the shadows coming on for that call, but it's worth noting that that call is not scheduled for a specific time in advance. It
Right.
requires that the docs lead be available for like a wide period of time and that they're ready to go whenever it's time to fire docs. Like Urvashi had to wait around for it to be time to fire docs to get on a call with me so that she could do it alongside me. So there is no scheduling that in advance. Unfortunately, it's just not possible. Um, but yeah, if the incoming docs lead wants to drop the Zoom link in their group chat and have the shadows watch, that is totally okay. But again, the shadows cannot do this work because they aren't going to get ownership access to the website repo.
Right. I don't mean to say about the permission is mostly like they having the visibility on the things, and so that they know that the next time they're doing, these are the things that are getting done. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're mostly like Urvashi can back this up. Aside from the Netlify stuff, which I did behind the scenes, like the docs lead doesn't actually see that happen. Um, it's literally just copy pasting stuff out of the docs, like out of the handbook. The only thing you have to do is like go get the first and last commit hashes but otherwise it is just copy and pasting things out of the docs handbook. There's nothing extra happening that the shadows can't read. And Depeche is right. Ray put up some videos on YouTube's on the release day docs tasks.
Got it.
All right, so that's a lot of really good feedback. Are there concrete action items that you want to take, Cyan, for some of this stuff?
Yeah, I'll definitely create the issue for it. Given the discussion, one of the reason was because I saw Cat had actively drafted a lot of docs items. I was going through the commits. So this discussion was definitely very helpful. I'll create a issue on the GitHub and then create the draft PR as Cat mentioned.
Okay. Would you still be willing to write an action item that we could use to tag, or I guess like connect to the issue that you have, just so for historical purposes?
Sure. Okay, I'll
Okay.
do
All
that.
right. Thank you. Moving on, Hiravashi.
Yeah. So I also want to firstly talk about the doc handbook structure and usability. So right now the doc handbook is quite, I mean, it's quite large and dense with limited segmentation. So being doc lead this time, I felt like it's a long document and it can be difficult to navigate, especially for a new contributor or who is doing it first time. So like it's difficult to quickly locate the right section or understand the flow of responsibility. So, as part of updating the handbook, we are planning to break down the handbook into the smaller chunks and the well-scoped section with the clear headings and quick links. Right now, in the handbook, some links are not working. So, I'm planning to put some updated PRs, I mean, the recent PRs and some pretty good examples over there so that it's easy. And also, we are planning to divide it into the phases, like maybe, as I said, it's a pretty long documentation. So, yeah. So this was the first observation, and the second thing was that in the during the early release cycle, we observed that we missed a critical check. What that was about the pro config file update. So this is something also we need to add. This was not present in the current handbook. So this is a very critical check. We can add it into the for the doc lead for the beginning week to check it before we proceed further. And the last point regarding the strategy around sending the reminders. This time we tried additional approach that beside sending the reminders on Caps and Slack, we also posted the final reminders on the doc peer, and it turned out to be really effective approach. So this is something also we can document it, and we are planning to follow it from next release onwards. Yeah.
Yeah, these are all great ideas.
Okay, and also with this, uh, I can share you the link which me and Cyan is working on. If you can quickly share that with the rest audience here, and we can get some feedback, that would be really great for us.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, I
Is that
think
is that this one? Right?
yes, I have posted it already in chat. If you can open it. Hmm.
Yeah, give me a moment here. Was this a div view? Because oh
Do you want me to send a diff? I can also send that.
Yeah, we really
Oh,
really need stuff like
okay.
that in the form of a diff because
yeah.
it's otherwise just it's unreadable.
Yeah, okay. I
Um,
have sent you a diff file on the Zoom chat.
oh, okay, perfect. Um, all right, we have about 2 minutes left, so I'm gonna move forward. Yeah, let's continue looking at those changes asynchronously. Depesh, you have one last item?
Yeah, just this one. I think there was a little bit of confusion around. So after code and test freeze, once the exception requests, that 3 days period has passed. So folks request some PRs to get in merged in, right? So there was confusion as to who gives that approval. Is it the release team or the SIG release leads? And I think there is a PR that has, which I've linked, that has gone in. So this is essentially changing the bot's command as to what that bot, the K8's bot is going to comment. And if I read that PR correctly, the bot is suggesting that currently the upstream repo is freeze. Please tag the SIG release leads. Is it correct? The approval should go to the release team, right? Specifically the release lead. Or am I wrong here?
SIG release leads as a group includes the release lead.
Okay.
I think it should. So that would be tagging the release lead at least, which is who I think ultimately
Mhm.
that approval should fall to. Like I don't think that the actual SIG release chairs need to be involved in that, but the release lead should. So let me look at that group, but I think it does include the release lead. I will double check this, but I am pretty positive that that tags the release lead.
And how do we close that approval? As in the release lead, I think Drew was giving approval on Slack. And do the lead needs to explicitly go to that PR and apply the milestone level? I guess yes, right? Or the
Yeah.
SIG leads can take care of that.
Yeah. Because the release lead definitely has the ability to apply a milestone post freeze. Anybody who's a milestone maintainer has the ability to do that. So yeah, the release lead should be the one throwing the milestone on that.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay. Any other final items? It looks like we're actually going over, so um, I'm gonna add an item for myself just to kind of drive a discussion on how we might be able to use the retro action items on GitHub. Um, but yeah, this was a really good discussion today. Are there any other final things we wanted to bring up before concluding the retro part two? All right. Thanks everybody for joining today.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye. Good job, everybody.